or between the grubby blankets of the fever hospital, sweating and stinking and racked with the convulsions of unrushing death. But never like this. Not healthy and vital and overwhelming like this. This was a marvellous symmetry and balance of trunk to long, powerful legs, of broad shoulders to narrow waist. There was a lustre to the skin, even where the sun had not gilded it. This was not an untidy tangle of masculine organs, half hidden by a bush of coarse hair, shameful and vaguely revolting. This was vibrant manhood, and she had been struck with sudden insight as to the original sin of Eve, the serpent and the apples, here offered again, and she had gasped aloud. He had heard her, and stepped from under the thundering jet of water and flicked the hair from his eyes. He saw her standing near, unable to move or tear her eyes away, and he smiled that lazy, taunting smile, making no move to cover himself, the water still streaming down his body and sparkling like diamond chips on his skin. "Good morning, Dr. Ballantyne," he had murmured. "Perhaps I am to be the subject of your scientific studies." Only then had she been able to break the spell, to whirl and rush back to her smelly little cabin. She expected to be greatly disturbed as she threw herself on the narrow planks of her bunk, waiting to be overwhelmed by a sense of sin and shame, but it did not come. Instead, she was confused by a contraction of her chest and lungs that left her breathless, and a remarkable warmth of her cheeks and the skin of her throat, a prickling of the fine dark hairs at the nape of her neck, and the same warmth of other parts of her body which had so alarmed her that she flung herself hurriedly off the bunk and onto her knees to plead for a proper sense of her own unworthiness and a true understanding of her essential baseness and irretrievable wickedness. It was an exercise she had undertaken 1,000 times in her 23 years, but seldom with so little success. For the 38 days of the voyage since then, she had tried to avoid those flecked yellow eyes and that lazy, taunting smile, and had taken to eating most of her meals in her cabin, even in the daunting heat of the equator, when the taint of the bucket behind the canvas screen in the corner of the cabin had done little to pique her appetite. Only when she knew that heavy weather would keep him on deck did she join her brother and the others in the ship's small saloon. Watching him now as he conned his ship off the hostile coast, she felt that disturbing prickle once again, and she turned away quickly to the land that was now swinging across the bows. The tackle roared through the blocks, and the yards creaked and crackled, the canvas flogged, and then filled again with a crash like cannon. At the sight of the land, she almost overcame those earlier memories, and was instead filled with such a sense of awe that she wondered if it were possible that the land of birth could call so clearly and so undeniably to the blood of its children. It did not seem possible that 19 years had passed since, as a 4-year-old waif, clinging to her mother's long skirts, she had last seen the great flat-topped mountain that guarded the southernmost tip of the continent sink slowly beneath the horizon. It was one of the only clear memories of this land that she retained. She could still almost feel the coarse, cheap stuff that a missionary's wife must wear, and hear the sobs that her mother tried to stifle, and feel them shake her mother's legs beneath the skirts as she clung closer. Vividly, she recalled the fear and confusion of the little girl at her mother's distress, understanding with childlike intuition that their lives were in upheaval, but knowing only that the tall figure that had been up to that time the centre of her small existence was now missing. "Don't cry, baby," her mother had whispered. "We will see Papa again soon. Don't cry, my little one." But those words had made her doubt that she would ever see her father again, and she had pushed her face into the coarse skirt, too proud even at that age to let the others hear her wail. As always, it had been her brother, Morris, who had comforted her, 3 years her senior, a man of 7 years, born like her in Africa, on the banks of a far, wild river with a strange, exotic name, Zuga, which had given him his middle name. Morris Zuga Ballantyne. She liked the Zuga best and always used it. It reminded her of Africa. She turned her head back towards the quarterdeck, and there he was now,
Para seguir escuchando este audiolibro gratuitamente, haz clic en el enlace de la descripción y podrás escucharlo completo sin coste gracias a la prueba de 30 días de Audible.